Biggest mistake business owners make is thinking they need to reinvent the wheel.
Most people don't realize that all the successful companies are running the same core systems.
That's why we're hosting the Home Service Hoorah, September 7th, 8th, and 9th in beautiful Pensacola Beach, Florida.
We're giving away the exact systems, playbooks, and operations we use to scale to multi-seven figures.
You're learning from real business owners that have been there and done that.
People who are in your exact position and scaled their business without losing everything.
Tickets will sell out, so register now at homeservicehoorah.com. Again, that's homeservicehoorah.com.
Running a home service business is hard. So how is it that some people make it look so easy? Well, we'll tell you. This is the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. It's always good to hear the wins that successful contractors have. But have you ever thought that the best advice would be to hear about the speed bumps they encountered, the mistakes they've made along the way? We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want you to be successful and avoid the mistakes others have made. Let's get this party started. Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Now your host, Justin Deese.
Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast, and we are hanging out today with Chris Yano, and we're going to be talking about some cool stuff. Now, Chris has been on the show before, but it's been a minute. It's been like 18 months, give or take. And in the world of entrepreneurship, from entrepreneurs that move fast, that's basically a lifetime. So we got a ton of stuff to catch up on, man. So how are you doing?
I'll tell you what. This retirement, I use air quotes, is not too shabby. I'm liking it.
Yeah, the freedom is cool, but as most entrepreneurs find out very quickly, it's sometimes a scary and dangerous place. So I know that last time you were on, actually, we were talking about some things you did to kind of get out of that rut that you were in for a minute. So, and I think now you got a pretty solid plan, which we'll get into that in a minute. But Let's talk about your business that you exited, right? So you and Anna grew this business, huge business, amazingly successful business, just a great business. I mean, I was a customer for years. Yep. And so you guys got the opportunity to partner with private equity, sell. So how was that experience? Not to go down too big of a rabbit hole, but
yeah,
that's the talking point now is private equity.
I know, man, and I get asked it all the time, all the time. And I've given so much advice on private equity over the years because I've experienced so much of it with even Rhino clients that were purchased by private equity that were friends of mine. So I've seen all shapes and sizes of deal structure and been a part of it and made a lot of connections. You know, I'm super grateful for that I was able to do that. And when you go through that, you think of everything. So when you go in to do your own private equity deal yourself, I feel like I thought it all. Like I figured it all out. Like I knew exactly what to ask. And we took our time when we did our deal. It was a 14-month process, start to finish, which is abnormally long. And it's not because we started like that meant, discovery, going through all the conversations, creating, like finding out who we want to partner with. And, we sold the business in April of 2023, but it wasn't to sell and exit. And I know you know that, Justin, but for the listeners, we weren't selling it to exit the business. It was, we thought we were making a very responsible decision. And it was, once you get the business to a certain size, how do you get it from 30 to 50 million? Well, you have all these employees and you don't want to guess your way to get it right there. So I'm thinking all these employees have, plans they're relying on us to scale it. They all have things they want to accomplish and they can't do it if they don't keep growing. And so we watched a lot of our friends go through deals and, I think it was still new enough that we didn't know the whole experience of the post-transaction relationships, and you hear the good and the bad, and just so I can put it up front, like I'm a fan if that's what you want. Like if you build a business and you want to sell it and exit, good for you. You should. That's the options there, and you can. And I think it's done a lot of really great stuff in our industry. So I am a fan, and I. And 3 years, this month, 3 years post deal for me, and I've done quite the roller coaster. But my intention was right, and I missed one question in our interview process on finding our partner that I did not think to ask. That now I make sure to share with everybody.
Let's do it. I can't wait to hear it. Listen, I got pen and paper. I'm ready.
The one question that I didn't ask or take into consideration because I did not think it was a thing was to ask the CEO if their plan was to stay all the way through the sale, like the next exit. Because I assumed having equity and being the CEO, who is the head of the portfolio company, that they would stay through the entire ride, the 2 to 3 year ride, and all the way through an exit, because that's where you make your money. Right. So I did not ask that question. And that is the one thing that got me is, when we went to market, Justin, I think I've told you this before, but for the listeners, when we went to market, we had 88 companies come to the table who wanted to acquire Rhino. 88. It was it blew our mind. We were like, because everyone's trying to get into home services.
Right.
They wanted, the brand was so strong. And that was a pretty humbling moment because we were like, oh, and now we can kind of come back with our non-negotiables and whittle that list down to people who are dead serious, but still have to work within the framework that we gave them. Because we do a ton of community service, a ton every month. And if you look on a P&L, it can give you heartburn because it's a lot of employees doing community service during work hours, for 4 hours once a month that we're covering costs on. But we believe that was helpful in churn and culture, and overall performance and just doing good, and doing good is good business. So we chose a CEO that we respected because I'm okay to be led by someone. I just have to really respect them and think I can learn from them. And so I really loved the CEO.
A mentor.
Absolutely a mentor. Somebody who's kind of been where I'm trying to go. That's why you picked them, right? So that and what I like is somebody who's different than me. And the gentleman that we picked, he's an engineer by trade, engineer thinker, Penn grad, super sharp guy, had built a business, opened up the locations for Amazon in the UK and in Ireland, super, super smart guy. And that's what I love because I'm the guy who wants to do these things. I need somebody to architect it back to figure out how do we actually accomplish things, in a thoughtful way. And it just worked. Personality wise, very different people. But I don't care. I wasn't looking for a friend. I was looking for a mentor and a leader. So, and then we quickly went to market shortly after we did our deal, 6 months, 7 months after, which was unexpected. And we didn't end up doing anything. We had offers. The private equity company turned it down. And when that happened, the CEO decided to exit because they were going to run a different plan than what his plan was. And I never thought that was a thing. Which, when I think about it now, it seems but now that I know what I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, of course that can happen. But I didn't know, and so when that shift happened is really when I went from being on offense to defense. And that's really when my experience turned bad. And I've been through that. I've been living in that the last couple of years. And that's why, at the end of this past year, it's you're not really making the decisions. You've never really been making the decisions. And it was just time to go. And so I'm grateful I did it. I am very grateful that I did it. I don't take that as it being that PE is bad. I do not think that. I think that it just comes down to, picking the right person and having the right real expectation of what could happen and what you want from it, and
so here's a question. Are you glad that you did the deal?
I'm glad I did it, Justin, because I did it for the right reasons. The change is what I didn't expect. I made the right call. The original call was the right call with that person. It changed. The circumstances changed. So, but now I'll tell you this. If I were to do it over again, I would have done it differently. I would have sold minority of the business so I can maintain control. This is easy to say now, by the way, now that I know what I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would have done that. That way I could control the business. And we weren't giving ourselves enough credit for how smart that we were to be able to scale these things, but you don't know, right? And you're trying to make a responsible decision. Today, 100%. When that thing got to 92 million and it was multiple, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 agencies in one portfolio company. Actually, it wasn't complicated as I thought it was going to be. I was like, but but things went south. Here's actually what happened. When we merged Blue Corona, another big company, into Rhino, the way that Anna and I actually wanted that to happen. I was a big fan of that happening, and then taking the major talent between the two organizations and putting them together should have made us a monster to compete against. Very, very intelligent, great technology, fast AI first bit. Like, we were on it. But the integration went about as bad as it could go. And every suggestion that we gave on integration, it was not. The new CEO made like the exact opposite of what we would say. And it was like you could just feel all the changes happening. And that's no fun. But what it did do is it let me and her know, oh, yeah, we were right. How we thought you should merge these businesses together is the way it should have been done. And had it been done that way, this would have worked out the way that we thought. So hindsight, right? You don't know. But, by the way, I don't want to do this again. So like, I have a pretty solid non-compete. I have zero interest in getting back into a PPC and SEO company, doing those things again. Like, I'm having fun doing what I'm doing. But everybody talks about building a business, Justin, and then wanting to settle at the right time. And we were able to do that, but under the right circumstances too. So like we did it because it was the right time. We just happened to catch it on the top of the wave, right? Right when everybody wants to.
Which is when you want to do it.
That's it. So
and I think it's hard for a lot of business owners to remember this, but the deal is everybody exits a business. Everybody. You're going to exit. It's whether it's, you kill over dead or whatever. I mean, everybody exits. So definitely when you want to exit is going to be at the top of it. And typically when you don't have to. Mm-hmm. That's normally when the better deals happen, is when you don't have to sell.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool because, from a private equity standpoint, obviously Chris and I have been through that as well. And there's a lot of what you hear, especially on the World Wide Web and all the socials, that are all negative. It's because obviously when people are upset, they're louder. And we were very fortunate because we did not have we had a very good experience with the group that we chose. And again, Family Desk, the CEO was very much a mentor, amazing guy. But yeah, and then you hear other people that are like, matter of fact, I just had somebody on the show who just got out of their non-compete, launched again, and he doesn't have anything nice to say about what deal he had. But
I know who
every deal's different.
There's probably a couple people that come to top of my mind who just did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
I'm telling you, I had a negative experience, but I'm still pro private equity. Yeah. Like I still think it's great you just got to pick the right people and ask the right questions. And I've heard a lot of really great things too. I mean, Tommy Mello is one of my best friends, and he has a fantastic relationship with Cortec. Now, the deal structure is different than mine, but he gets to really control how that company runs because he still has majority stake in that business. So like it's he has more control. And we didn't have that. I didn't know that I could structure a deal that way. And it sounds silly to say it out loud now, thinking like, oh, well, why I should have just asked. I feel like I should have got better counsel on deal structure. But I'm still pro. I 100% doing that put me in a different tax bracket that allowed me to get involved with more things and more businesses and more circles. And like I'm grateful for that. Well,
and I think that people miss a little bit on this point of private equity too, is a lot of people talk about how it's going to ruin the industry. Now, we weren't going to talk about this, but just came to me and I want your input on it. I think that what this private equity is doing to the industry is it's going to open a giant gap for those smaller businesses to really be able to own and dominate the market in their backyard. That's my opinion. You're the digital marketing expert. What's your take on that?
And I'm 100% on board with you there too. And I've been saying that. Like I was just over in Anaheim for this Links Live, dealer meeting, and I had this same conversation because even though I'm not at Rhino anymore and haven't been since the end of the year, everybody still associates me with the business, and they should. Right? I've known, and I still study this stuff. Like it's something I'm just genuinely interested in and good at. I agree. I think it's actually a win for if you're so private. It's a win, and I'll tell you what. I actually also think that we see a new wave. Like I've gotten the man. I've had such a cool. It's 2 decades I was in this doing this stuff in home services specifically, And I've got to work with the OGs, like the old school guys, right? They really kind of set the tone, with the exception of Jim Abrams, who I've had a love to have worked with, but I've got a relationship with him, which is great. But like, you know, the Goodriches, the Geigers, the Haynes, you know, the Lelands, like these guys are all my friends, and I've had gotten to work with them. And then you talk about the new wave of guys that came in, you know, like the Peterman brothers and the Ishmaels and the Hoffmans and the Aaron Gainers of the world, and like all these, next wave of big play. And now there's another wave coming. And I think that the Blackstone deal with Champions Group is fantastic for our industry, because what this means for all those new guys coming in who are finally getting to that 10, 20, 30 million mark, like the new wave, well, they might not want to do it now, but they're probably going to do – some of them are probably going to do a deal later, and that Blackstone deal is going to help us maintain the multiples in the industry. And even this year, you're going to see some more big deals happening throughout this year that I know are coming. And that's
one just happened.
That's great. There's a couple that happened.
Yeah, there's one that just happened. At the time of recording, I think last week. Yeah,
you're right, and that's another great example. But there's a few more that are coming too, that are privately held businesses, and so like it's going to be great so it's going to give us a nice long wave of opportunity for these guys if they decide to go down that path.
Yeah, and even if they don't, I still think there's such a competitive advantage that they do have. As long as they take advantage of it, and as long as they just focus on owning and dominating that market, I think that there's. I'm with you though. I said this when we sold our first plumbing business. So Chris and I, when we sold the first plumbing business, it was like, we're done, we're out, we're not doing that again. And the day our non-compete was over, we launched the next business. But to your point, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think a lot of times business owners. They hear podcasts or they see people on YouTube and they're like, oh my gosh, they just know all this stuff. And the truth is, all this stuff in our industry is learned. Like nobody is born understanding any of this stuff, right? It's all a very learned behavior. But what's nice is when you have the life experience and you've been through it, sometimes the ones that cost you a bunch of money are the ones that stick the most.
Well, I get to have some of these conversations, I've had the To The Point Home Services podcast since January 2020, and the whole premise of it was to have conversations around real experiences, and I wanted to talk more about the bad than the good. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, and you experience the same thing, Justin, is everybody's just regurgitating shit that they've learned in the industry, right? And they've kind of made a spin on it and then made it their own. And I think there's value in that, because that's the gift, right? The playbook is there, but you can adjust the plays, right? You kind of know what to do. It's just, one, are you doing it? And do you have the right person to run the play? And then you can kind of make it your own. And I always leaned into the negative. Like, let's talk about the worst things that happen so we can then avoid the pitfalls. But most of the things I've heard over all these years, like nothing has been like, oh my God, that's revolutionary. It's just a lot of the same, playbook being tweaked and worked differently. Now, the AI conversation has probably been the biggest change that I've experienced on how it's, both on the, internally and externally, and how do you pivot, to leverage it, because you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. Well, you can't too, but that's a mistake. So, but, man, I think that the market is great. I don't think you need to overthink how to run these businesses. When you started that plumbing business, I bet you did a lot of the exact same thing that you did when you did. The only difference is you knew what to do this time.
Right, and I had a totally different goal. I knew what I needed to watch. I had my 5 KPIs. I wasn't overthinking it. Everybody had their roles and responsibilities, and it was like, go. There's a lot of good that comes from that for sure.
I don't see myself doing it again. My non-compete is up at the end of 2027. But honestly, it's such a stressful business to be in every day. And as it scales and gets bigger, now you got 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 contractors relying on you every single month to show up. Like in a market where you pray to God there's weather when it's 70 degrees. Like, I'm telling you, you carry a lot of stress in that business. And on January 1st, when I was done, the relief that I felt was like, oh, whoa. Oh, dude, it was like, I was like, I'm out. Like, thank God. Like, this is what it feels like to not have all this pressure on me. It was a pretty. Now I had an amazing ride, and it was all worth it. And I know I helped a lot of businesses scale, and I know I did it the right way. But man, I'm not sure I want to do it again.
Well, and you're dealing with Google that is ever changing by the minute. And now you've got AI on top of that. And now you got something else coming down the pipeline. So
Yep. I'd just rather have an opinion about it than be responsible for it.
yeah, no kidding. I love it. And okay, so let's shift gears a little bit into what are things looking like for you guys now? Like what's your focus? What are you working on?
Yeah, what's interesting, Justin, when I made the public announcement, and I had to do that on purpose because I told you I needed to make sure that that everyone knew that I exited the business completely.
Yeah, and don't call me if you're mad.
Yeah, not me, man. And I still get some messages because people don't all see it, but like I still help everybody. Like if somebody reaches out to me, I help them, even though I'm not there, but I let them know I'm not there. And because in my nature, that's who I am. Like I want to be helpful, but like when I can't sit and do nothing. Like as soon as we left on January 1st that afternoon. So me, my wife, Anna, Tommy, and Bree, we all went to Costa Rica for 10 days. Like that's how we decided we were going to kick off. We did Bora Bora the year before. That's when Tommy and Bree got engaged. And then this year was Costa Rica. I mean, I made it like 6 days and I was getting antsy. I was like, I got to do something. Well, thankfully, I had bought 2 companies last year and merged them together. I bought Prolific Brand Design, which was a branding agency that I leveraged at Rhino as a partner, who I think the world of. I think their designs are great. And obviously I have a great relationship with Antonelli, who's a big competitor, and those 2 businesses respect each other. It's just, Prolific is a much, much smaller business than KickCharge is. And it worked out that they're Phoenix-based, and I'm in Phoenix, so that was nice. But no way was I going to have a business that was just project-based revenue. So I needed the recurring revenue. And so I've been following this guy, Zach Garside, for a long time. Zach Garside used to work for my buddy Brigham up at Power Selling Pros for 7-8 years. Super sharp guy. He's young, hungry, had a family. And so I kind of watched what he was doing. And when the time came, I was like, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary and see if I can buy his little business. Cause he stepped out of Power Selling Pros and started this little company called Simplified Email Marketing. And I could have cared less about email marketing. And like, it was never on my radar in my world, right? It was just such a small thing. And he's like, email marketing, is boring. It's not sexy, but like, look what it's doing. I'm like, okay, like, give me the pitch. Let's see it. I'm like, I just wanted him. And if it meant I had to buy his company, that's fine. I'll do it. And then he walked me through it and I was like, oh, wow. Like he's actually getting like 8, 10, 12, 20x returns off his tiny $1,500 a month payment. I'm like, bro, you got a real business. Like, and he's doing it consistently. So like, he sold me on it. So I was like, that was an added benefit that I didn't expect, but I wanted him. So I ended up buying his business. I bought Prolific. I merged them together. And then I made Zach the president of Prolific. And I've just been mentoring him. And we did that deal in May of last year. And so I have not stepped back into anything since then. I'm not going to step into anything. But we're leading that business. So Anna and I have been leading the leadership team at Prolific. Now, I also started a roofing company. Sounds really random. A year and a half ago, with my buddy Chad Peterman. So we launched that, and we have a minority partner too, Billy, who is a CFO by trade. Like he's which everybody needs to get one of those. And he really oversees day to day. He's not in the day to day. He just oversees day to day leadership at the company. It's in Indianapolis, so it's in the same market as Chad. So we really leverage the Peterman Brothers brand and scaling the company, and then Prolific did the branding for Redbird Roofing and we scaled that thing, and we learned a lot the first half of the first year. Made a lot of mistakes. For guys who have a lot of knowledge, we sure made a lot of mistakes. But then our first full year, we did $3.5 million, and we almost had our first $1 million month this in March. Like, talk about a shift. But because once we got the machine working and the right people to run the machine. Now we can start pumping money into the lead generation of the machine, which is really where I have the most value. And now the machine is well oiled, and we are off to the races. And we have a $7 million goal this year, and we're on pace, to hit it. So, but again, it takes 3-4 hours of my time, and and that's about it. So then the other little investments and stuff that we've made, all of it kind of rolls up to our family office, which is the Yano Group. People have seen it. It's not new. We've had it for years. It's just now kind of out there. So the plan is just to keep functioning in there in some capacity.
Well, and that's cool because now you get to really be like a board of directors, and you get to leverage your strategic brain. And I think that's what's cool about you guys taking this roofing and blowing it up as quick as you can, or as quick as you did, is most people when they start businesses, especially guys that go from single owner operator to trying to run a business, they are like they're spending all their time on the tactical stuff of the business, where what you're able to do is focus on the strategic side, which is why you can grow and scale.
Yeah. Well, because that's advice I bet you've given a million times, Justin, is like you got to be able to work on your business versus in your business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you go into it knowing that, but it is easier, right? Because you can't. Now you have the capital. Like you don't have the. Right. You're not in the same position. Like I also get in and grind because I love that. I love the startup piece of it, and I move fast and I make decisions quick. But now I can do that with 2 decades worth of experience. So it is different,
right?
But you're right. You could coach that all day long, and people are still like, "Yeah, that sounds great, Justin, but I really can't do that because I have to be in here doing this because I don't have the person." We don't have the person yet because you've not following some of the steps to find the person who is good at the things that you suck at. Like it's just the mentality you have to change to get to go fast. And this is the perfect example of the roofing business. I've never put a roof on a day in my life, and I don't even know how, but I don't need to know how. That's what the other people know. That's what they do. So like, I just need somebody to be responsible for it and accountable for the team. And my job was to build the brand. And that's exactly what I did. Like that year, the very first year we created the brand, I pumped so much money in just to building the brand, which is scary because you need immediate lead gen. And I was concerned about building the brand because I knew if we built the brand, we would start to get leads faster and we'd start to get good talent. And all I did was become 5 Mile famous. So I just picked this 5 mile radius of where we were located, and I just hammered brand on it. And my CFO, our other partner, our third partner, like gives him heartburn because I'm just blowing money on brand, and he's like, "The numbers don't work." I'm like, "Not yet, they don't work. Not yet, they don't."
That's why it's branding, though. It's branding.
Trust me. And so this year the tune's a little bit different for him. He's like, "Yeah, let's keep spending more money." We're like spending $50,000-$60,000 a month on marketing now, and he's like, "Can we do more somewhere else?"
Well, so for anybody listening, I think you just gave a really good pro tip, and I hope the listeners picked it up, which is your approach in that business was really more like a sniper. Like go after a 5 mile and own and dominate it. Don't try to be all things to all people 100 miles from you, because in that 5 mile radius, I mean, your windshield time goes down, your response time goes down, and it's a lot easier to own that market. So I hope everybody listening picked up on that.
You can be a big fish in a small pond and make a lot of success. You have a lot of success fast because your dollar goes further, and that way. And the plan was to scale, right? That is the plan. But why focus on the entire greater Indianapolis metro area every time you roll a truck? Now, here's what I didn't know that you probably knew, Justin, and Chad definitely knew, but didn't make me aware of it soon enough, is fleet management and the expense of a fleet. And that these guys can't seem to not get in crashes and wrecks. And it's like, I looked at our expenses and I'm like, wait, like we got 8 vehicles right now. Like how are we having so many problems? And I was like, who's holding these guys accountable? And Chad's like,
you're like, and they're new.
Yeah. I'm like, they are new. So that one was something new I had to lean on, but yeah, man, you keep the truck close to home, all that stuff adds up, less fuel, less, time, all the things.
All right. So I want to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions if you're good with it.
Let it rip.
These are big ones, man. These are going to take some thought. What is your favorite food?
I wondered which way you're going to go. I thought, is he setting me up for like really it to be it, or is he going to ask you some silly question?
We're going to go silly.
My favorite. Listen, I'm a country boy, so like my favorite food is like meat and taters, man. So I can eat steak and potatoes and corn and green beans and like that. That's my jam. So I like a good old country home cooked meal.
Nice. All right, that's a good answer. Next question. What's your hobby?
You know what? This is going to be an unpopular answer for my wife, but I love cars. I'm a history buff, so I love history in general. But I love classic cars because of the story it tells. Like, they'll never be made that way again, and the stories it tells. And when you drive these old cars and the older folks see it, they kind of get taken back to their time back in the 50s. I have 3 cars in the 50s. I have a 56 and a 57 Chevy Bel Air. which are like the old school iconic Bel Air cars. We have a 1954 MG, which is an old little teeny tiny European car. It's like a choke start. Like you turn on and keep choke to start the car, which most probably some people listening didn't even know that was a thing. I have my daily driver is a 2021 TRX Hennessy version, so it's a Mammoth 900. It's 920 horsepower truck. That's my daily driver. Gets a solid 7 to 8 miles of the gallon, Justin.
Yeah.
And then I have my big toy is I have a 2021 Lamborghini Huracan.
Okay.
Probably I've had that one for a little while, but that was like the car that I needed to check the box that I made it. I never post it, never really talk about it, but now that I'm out of the business, I don't mind it so much. But it was for me. It wasn't a statement. It was just me. I wanted to check that box. Right. So I love cars, but I also used to race. So I was, my last time I raced was at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, in the Indy Light cars, and that was in 2014. And I was trying to chase that down to race Indianapolis 500, and that's what I thought I was going to do. But the business was kind of growing at the same time as the racing, and something had to give, and that something was...
Anna probably likes the choice you made better.
She really likes that choice. Let me tell you, there was some real contention when I was racing on spending that money because it costs so much just to compete, and so I don't know, man. Cars are what I love. I think the hobbies is just the business. Like I really love the businesses. That's fun to me to go and do. And I know it's weird to call it a hobby because it almost sounds like you don't really care about it, but it's not that. It's just like going and figuring the things out is the fun. Like I went to Linux Live and sat in a trade show booth, which I have not done in a long time, just so I could go and help build the business of email marketing, and I got to do it with the team of people who were new and got to train them. And I really enjoyed that. That was fun. And so I don't know. I don't know if I actually answered your question. It's kind of like a two-part answer there, but my hobbies are, pretty simple, man. We are a very close family. You see, I have 4 kids. We travel everywhere together. We have all kinds of experiences, and I love that. And we do, like I said, we're just a super tight family. But my car collection is over until I can get our new house built because I have no room. And if you ask Anna, she would tell you that she told me that a year ago. But I went to Barrett-Jackson and I found the 1969 Indianapolis 500 pace car, Chevy Camaro. I bought that. That's sitting in the garage right now, so it's a constant reminder for her to be pissed at me for making another purchase I shouldn't have made. But yeah, man, I think I'm just going to keep going down this business route, and I like investing in companies, and I like the ones I believe in, and I like just doing this startup stuff. It's been fun. I'm probably going to continue to do that for the rest of my life at this point.
Killer. So third and final rapid fire question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from a mentor?
I tell everybody this too, and it's going to sound super simple. And this is where somebody wants to hear something like groundbreaking, right? Like, oh my God, didn't ever think about that. But this one is, if you think about it, and it's, I'm going to give you two things. I'm going to give you a piece of advice that somebody gave me, and then I'm going to give them a piece of advice from myself that I've experienced and things that I used to use. But it was how you make your money is more important than how much money you make. So how you make your money is more important than how much money you make. Think integrity, think character, think things like that. I'm a big believer in that. And so how I took that, Justin, and translated it is my whole mantra was reputation over revenue. I've worn the shirts before. Mm-hmm. And I've caught so much flack for that over the course of time. People, and who doesn't love that answer is private equity. But because they don't understand the actual math behind how it really works and not the spreadsheet math. And the point is if you do good, like you heard me say earlier in the podcast, doing good is good business. It kind of all goes together. I'm such a believer in doing good, honest work. And also when you mess up, owning it fast, and then giving your staff the comfort in owning it without, there being some sort of, punishment attached to it or whatever. You kind of create that environment. But people will say, oh, we put customers over employees, and we did not. The employees were more important than the customers to us, because we knew if we took really, really good care of them, our internal reputation, We supported them by their personal goals. We came up with what their dreams were, to figure out how can we help them work towards their dreams and hold them accountable for like things that actually matter that aren't our business. Continue to do community service together, which helps you build relationships that's just much different. It's not about them. It's not about the business. It's about just humanity. And that builds a bond with the team, like far greater than people expect, which creates very, very, very low turnover. But we poured into these people. And if we did that, knowing that our business is incredibly complicated, that they would take really good care of our employees, which would then give the business a good reputation. And so it was like this little circle that if we did that, we took care of these things, the business would continue to scale. And what follows that? Revenue. Yep. So reputation over revenue matter. And that is exactly how we built the business. And here's a little pin in the cap on this thing is when that shifted in this business, when that shifted a couple years ago in this business, in that business, I'm not at Rhino anymore, but in that business, what do you think started to happen when it shifted and then revenue went over reputation? You can take a guess.
Yep.
Tell you it wasn't up and
dropping.
It wasn't up and to the right. I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I want no parts of that. So reputation over revenue absolutely matters. And I'm telling you, don't sleep on. You don't want to sleep on that. It sounds silly if you think short-sighted on it. It's not. It is 100%. The reason I have all these relationships today, Justin, with all these players, is because they could trust me and they know I would tell them yes or no to something. I wouldn't be a yes man to them. But they also know that I would study. Like I was really, really good at my job. And it's because I knew I needed to be the guy when my friends asked questions or customers asked questions or employees asked questions. And I carried that weight on my shoulders. I love it. I want to be the guy that takes the last second shot. I trust myself. I'll take the last second shot, even if I miss it. I'm thinking it's going in, right?
Yep.
But doing good is good business, man. And just remember that. And don't be afraid to your listeners if you don't look at community service, if you're read the Bible or whatever you do. It says, don't tell the right hand what the left hand is doing. But the point of it is if you're doing community service and you share it, it's not a negative if the intent is right. If the intent is right, it actually helps these organizations get more traction. And that was the gift. And we got the double dip because we would not only get the culture building happening in the business, and them going and serving together, but it also helped the organizations. And now you talk about doing good. We did a lot of good. And as we scaled and grew, we did a lot more good. And it was good for our business. It was good for our reputation, both internally and externally. And so I will always advocate for that. And guess what? At Redbird Roofing, we're doing the exact same thing.
People want to belong to something. Community is important. That is the big shift that's happened with employees over the past 15, 20 years. They want to be part of something. They want to be part of it.
People don't live to work. They work.
Right.
So how do you make it matter to them? And you have to what's in it for me, right? The with them. You find out what they want to do. Like I asked these new salespeople on the Prolific team, what do you want to do? I want to buy my first car. I want to buy my first house. Great. Let's work a plan backwards, and I'm going to start to
build them a roadmap.
That's exactly what I did for them. And then I'm going to hold them accountable to their own plan for their own goal. And that matters, right? Because now it's not even about the business. It's about the business is what's helping them get to the goal that they gave me, and then I help them architect together. And that's a different deal. That hits different. So I'm such a huge fan of if you focus on them and you don't fake it, because if you fake it, it's pretty clear.
Know it. Yeah.
You mean it. If you mean it, and this is where Tommy, I think, hits a home run, is it certainly is helpful. Man, you can really scale a business if you don't have to keep rehiring for the same position because of churn.
Really expensive. Yeah, it's really expensive to rehire.
And it prolongs.
Chris, thank you, man. Dude, I appreciate you coming and hanging out. And one thing we didn't talk about that I do want to leave the listeners with too is your podcast, To The Point. Make sure you go in there, check it out, subscribe. Subscribe to this one too. Subscribe to both. Such great stuff. But Chris, I appreciate it, man. And we will be catching up with you pretty soon, my man.
Man, Justin, it's always good hanging out with you and chit-chatting, and I love catching up. So I appreciate you having me on. I hope it was helpful, for the listeners. Obviously, if you come over to The Point Home Services Podcast, we basically talk about a lot of the same stuff.
Yep. Good deal, man.
You've been listening listening to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Information is useless if not applied. So take what you've learned and go and implement it. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Freedom Blueprint for Home Services and hit the website at www.freedomblueprintpodcast.com. See you next time.